everyone will please stand. Before we say the pledge, I would like to do something a little different tonight. Since our last meeting, we lost a lifelong member of the town of Atlanta, former council member Jeff Pfeiffer. I'd like to have a moment of silence tonight before we say the pledge. Thank you. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. You have a copy of the regular minutes from the January 26th meeting in front of you. Are there any additions or corrections?
I motion we accept them.
I hear a second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And then also, January 26th, executive session minutes.
I motion we accept those.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
On this executive session document, I need a signature from each one of you, so we'll pass that down.
Nope, we haven't.
Hamilton County Chamber of Commerce meeting.
Oh,
So you haven't been on
the trail?
the chamber meeting. We had a amendment board for another
Oh.
chamber.
Oh, okay.
All right, we'll move on to our reports. Andy?
Water plant treated 515,150 gallons since January 26th. Our average daily usage is 36,790. Filters were backwashed on the 1st. The January water report's complete. It's been submitted to IDEM. Our significant water withdrawal report has been completed and sent to the DNR. The ceiling at the water plant has been repaired and retained. Damage last year when we had a programming malfunction and our detention tank overflowed. Damaged drywall in there. We're performing yearly checks to the lift stations, the ponds, and the SSO. Sewer plant's closed and we're not discharging. Our weekly sewer samples are complete. The January wastewater report's complete. It's been submitted to IDEM. And then on our project out there, I'd like to go ahead and order the chemicals for the wastewater plant rather than waiting. I don't know if you guys had a chance to review those bids. Both those bids. I mean, basically they want to charge $1,000 for making a phone call. The chemicals are about $300. And the one was like $1,200, one was like $1,300. You know? So I just want to go ahead and order them. It's going to be about double that because the starter chemicals are just 2 tanks of salt dioxide, 2 tanks of chlorine, 4 of each. So we have 2 backup tanks. We do it with the water plant. But everything just seems to get delayed. We gotta have it regardless.
What's the estimated cost on that?
That's $600. It's like 2, I forget, I mean, one one set's like, I forget, $283 or something like that. Times two, 4 bottles of salt
And we still save money. We do it ourselves.
Yeah, and we're paying $1,000 just for somebody making a 3-minute phone call. I mean, that's no joke.
I think we should let Andy order it.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, that's something that we're gonna have to set the account up and have continuous bottles being delivered in the future if we're using them, so I would say go ahead and.
Fair motion
I motion.
second.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Hunter Streets, I ordered our last load of road salt. Should be here later this week. And then, I mentioned this before, but we're gonna have to replace the hydraulic cooler on the backhoe. Best price I've been able to find, just for the cooler itself, was $922.55. That's what that's putting in. I'd like to go ahead and order that before it fails completely. It's been leaking since summer. I mean, it's got fin rot. I mean, it's not repairable. Get that.
Someone like to make a motion for that this evening?
I make a motion, we let Andy go ahead and take care of that one.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And we had one stray dog. The owner was located, the animal was returned. Crown Vic's been sold to North Liberty Police Department along with a few accessories for $3,800. The other 2 cars been stripped, waiting bids. And then on the benches, we've got enough caps to get 4 benches now, $225 apiece. And I'd like to just purchase the other benches.
How many others?
Well, it depends on how many you want to get. We need 7 for the gazebo. So it could be 3 if we stop there, or if you want to replace any of the old benches, like in front of the town hall, and over across the street, I don't know, whatever you guys want to do. They're the $360 buying them outright. We can save $135 on them. I figure if we got to make the trip down there, you got to set up an appointment to do this. We've got about, I don't know, probably got about 40 bags now.
Are you saying we have enough for 4? I'm sorry.
Enough for 4?
Yeah.
Yeah. At $225 each.
There's
4, correct? Then the 7, we got 7 additional.
I didn't make multiple copies, but there's this is the literature on it.
I don't know, how many benches do we need total?
I don't know, it doesn't mean work it out really. I mean, the gazebo takes 7.
I don't think it's that much fun.
I'm just telling you, unless I'm being told that I have to do it.
Well, I'm just,
done
what
with
I'm
half
thinking
crap.
of is what's coming up tomorrow. We don't know what we're gonna have to come up with.
That's fine.
So, I mean, I get it, but, you know, we could end up draining a lot of resources.
So we'll put this so far? Yes, let's table that for the next meeting. We're on agreement with that until we find out exactly where we're at. Indicate that tomorrow.
Under building, had 5 building inspections, 2 electrical inspections, 1 re-inspection, and 1 building permit inquiry, 1 inquiry about the landscaping standards, 2 zoning inquiries, and the January census report is complete and has been submitted. Any other questions? That's all I got right now.
Murray, welcome.
Not much. Just 11 notices have been issued, and I towed 1 trailer. Had more than ample time to be remedied, and they never did anything with it. So.
When was that towed?
Last week, I can't
Last
remember
week?
the day.
Okay.
I've got it written
I'll
down.
just be there.
It was last week. It's been an ongoing issue. They've actually been cited 4 different times. My last one was about the middle of the year last year, and I just happened to be walking through the yard again, and so taken care of. So.
questions for Mary? All right, we'll move on. Robin, do you have?
I just gave you guys copies of the 1782, so it's our approved budget. And once we get things settled down with debts, we can talk about carryover and rainy day fund and finishing up the garage, but that's what it came back as.
We'll move on to old business tonight. We have a resolution, R-02-2016-1. It's a resolution approving the Northern Hamilton County Trail Master Plan. If you recall, they were at our last meeting with some information about the proposed trail. And they're asking that we, I guess, approve this master plan.
That's all they're doing is
Yeah.
approving the plan.
Yeah, there's no money stipulations at this point. It's just approving the plan, so. Do I hear a second tonight?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any other old business tonight? We'll move on to new business. We do have our nepotism forms here, our annual certification of town executive of the town of Atlanta and the town's compliance with municipal nepotism policy involving direct line supervision. I just need to sign these, Robin.
Yeah, you have to sign two. One is individually and one is like for the town. So that's why you have to sign two. And then the rest of us just sign one.
Any other new business tonight?
Talking about sewer.
We can, yeah. That'll be time to do that.
Well, cause I don't know if you guys seen this last email, but, Robin and I got brought up into it. It was actually sent to John about, Amy says she's been waiting on a decision from you guys, which I've never heard. She's never expressed that to me, not 1 minute, or with Robin, so it's like nothing's happened.
We do have a meeting scheduled tomorrow to discuss, and then a public meeting following to make decisions on what direction we want to go.
Oh, I canceled the public meeting
Did you?
because I thought I was gonna have just bets. I thought,
Yeah, I figured, I hadn't said anything, but without Betts being there, I don't know if we'd be ready to make a decision tomorrow or not.
I'm ready to make a decision. I've been ready to make a decision. Should have been made about a month ago.
it was
Should have been
scheduled for
made a couple months
4:30,
ago.
which would not give us really enough time to have an executive session. So how do we fix it?
Well, I mean, if we've already sent notice of canceling, we'd have to schedule a special meeting on a different day.
But really, all we have to do is ratify. I mean, not.
Right.
I mean, everybody can come to an agreement in executive session, correct, and then vote. in public meeting.
Well, we can get a sense of the consensus of the, the
Right.
group.
So Beth's, there's not going to be present tomorrow.
Their attorney, I don't know if their attorney's even told them. Their attorney is in Florida and will not be back until Monday. And he's in mediation all day Monday, but he said he's free the rest of the week.
We are fixing to get burned.
We're running, this is what's been going on, lack of communication, nobody relaying anything. The email that Andy's referring to, but it dates back to a month and a half ago that I hadn't gotten a reply back on a very important issue that we needed to know. The contractors pulled out 3 months ago or so off the job, and there's plenty of work to be doing. I mean, nobody put a stop work order on it, and we are running out of time. We keep postponing this thing to have these meetings and waiting and waiting. We're going to be running into our time frame with IDEM, and we ain't going to have this up and running.
Well, I'll tell you, if you had a chance to review those bids,
Oh, I've seen.
we've purchased the doors, okay? The low bid was about $55,000. That puts us at $69,000. Robin's holding on, had a pay request come in today that was for $32,000. Even if we don't give Betts their last pay request, there's not enough money to finish this job. I mean, this is a total train wreck.
Well, I point blank asked that question in a meeting we held, and I was assured that there was.
There's not.
That, well, that's.
Yeah, I remember him saying.
Uh-huh.
Yep.
I was surprised when we saw those numbers because that's not what we discussed.
So, why can't the council just decide now? This is a public meeting.
You know, you guys all know me, I love getting ripped off. I'm really, as a taxpayer in this town, as a person that pays utility bills, I'm really like reaching my maximum limit with this crap. I'm gonna show you this right here. This little piece right here, I just had laying in my garage. So I shot up to Ace Hardware, bought this myself for $5.49. I could go out there and install this in 1 minute. I've already done it just to see. Okay? They want to charge us $2,650 for this right here. And what I'm looking at is we don't even have the money. We don't even have the money to finish the project. And Amy was supposed to contact Okra. That's what he's referring to about what we could do to finish this ourselves and do this thing a la carte and hire local people. I understand we have to pay prevailing wage, but it's just back to this chemical issue. They want to charge us $1,000 for a phone call. We don't have the money. I mean, we have to finish this ourselves. We don't have the money.
So, Aaron, when I talked to Amy today, she said, she kind of put it as, well, I can't get a straight answer from Okra until we get an answer from the town whether or not they're going to fire Betts and they're still going to be involved. But did not Betts fire themselves
They quit.
when they walked off the job? So, I mean, isn't it just a matter of them being in breach of contract and we can just revoke the bond and start the ball rolling?
Yes and no. Yes, that's what I would say they did. No, because at the end of the day, we'll probably wind up with a judge having to decide this. I believe they walked off the job, they abandoned the job, and from everything I've been told, they've caused problems from start to finish, and they ignored the specs. It sounds like they were trying to bring us subpar or cheaper, or maybe even recycling old things, rather than bringing in what we had spec'd out and what they had placed their bids at. And the town has suffered damages. Now, if we decide to, whether we decide to say we terminated or they walked, we need to be ready because either we're suing them or they're suing us.
But this is like the Titanic right now because the plot just keeps getting deeper and deeper. Come to find out, they are in arrears to their vendors, which I didn't know this, that when it's all said and done, if they don't pay their vendors, the town of Atlanta pays their vendors.
And the way I understood it, the
So,
grant writer's supposed to be overseeing
Part of
that.
the grant.
It's part of the grant, and she's supposed to be overseeing that people are being paid, the subs are being paid, the vendors are being paid, and apparently
We had the owner of Living Waters out today to look at the damage in the chlorine room. And here's what worries me. This is the busiest time of the year for Living Waters. They are all over the state. They've been behind schedule. They're all over the state getting all these wastewater plants up and ready for chlorination season. And I just think if we don't take advantage of his offer, and his offer is reasonable, if we give him a helper, he is gonna come out, the owner of the company, and do this work himself to get our plant operational. And I just think if we don't make, some sort of decision quick, we're gonna miss it all together. But he called while John and I were standing there, his accountant, and they owe Living Waters $2,000. Betts does right now. And B.L. Anderson, I don't know how much that bill is, but they haven't paid B.L. Anderson. And who knows, without somebody checking all the other vendors and subcontractors, who else hasn't been paid? I mean, it could end up being a substantial amount of money.
So we have this check for $32,000 that they're supposed to get from that last pay app that was approved because Jim Frizzell urged the council. No, it was Jim. He sat right there.
He was the one who brought it back with the $10,000 reduction.
Yeah, but, to make nice and show good faith. But now, if we're going to be paying their vendors too, and we have 5 days to get that check cut.
To legally fire somebody, I'm assuming it takes the town to legally fire Betts. Wouldn't that take some documentation or at least a vote from this table?
Yeah, we would.
My point is, there is no documentation saying we fired him. There was no vote for them to leave. They just simply, in fact, we had a meeting here, and after the meeting, they just chose not to come back. And there was no indication that we didn't want him coming back. So I would think that if we sued them, I would think it'd be in our favor. As from the judge's point of view, they just simply walked off the job.
Well, I mean, I believe with what I know that we'd have a very strong case. The one thing to remember when you sue someone is you can only collect from them if they've got something to collect.
But we have their bond.
Yeah, we can go after the bond, and we can see what else is there. I mean,
the bond will cover it.
Yeah.
How much is the bond?
And then we have, we haven't paid what's left in the grant money.
Well, the bond is for the full
10%,
amount.
wasn't it?
No, that's what they paid. The bond is for the full amount of the project, so the bond should be $192,000 and some change.
Yeah, because we're going to want that bond because if those subs come after us, that's our way. Because we may be about to get sued by all the subs.
Aaron, where does Triad come into play in all this? I mean, they're our engineering firm, okay? I mean, shouldn't they've got a big piece in this.
Well,
The contract is written between Triad and MK Betts, am I correct?
No. Between us and Betts.
Us and Betts.
We paid Triad to manage the project and oversee construction. We paid them as the construction manager.
But
They-
yeah,
they
the
got it.
construction's not
I
done
want-
either.
I want Triad to be in a meeting. I've got some questions for them as
but
well
they're supposed to be in the executive session tomorrow.
tomorrow.
Amy's supposed to be here, and Triad's supposed to be here with the rest of us.
And my concern is where we go and what the OCRA and SRF will allow us to do. And that was my phone call on January 4th to Amy, and she was going to make a phone call and find out and let me know, and I have yet to be told. I have not gotten that answer. In the email, she needs a directive from the board before she can advise. Well, I don't know why she can't make a phone call and find out what their requirements, OCRA and SRF requirements are on a situation like this. So that would give us the information we may need to know to make that decision. And they've also asked about who and when do we notify the bonding company. I have not got a reply from anybody on that either. So it's just another lack of communication, prolonging the issues, and nothing's getting resolved. And here we're running the clock down with IDM mandate. And we're going to, we're the ones facing the $25,000 a day fine if they, choose to impose that. And we've already went to bat to IDM and asked for extensions, 4 times? on this
Yeah.
project due to
Yeah.
applying for grants and being denied and then have to reapply. They have granted us that. And the last time they told us there was no more extensions. So I say that April 1st, this thing's up and running no matter what we gotta do to have it. Because the town can't afford that. There is no way we can afford those fines, let alone the additional cost of the project to finish it out. So,
So the council could make a decision tonight, couldn't they? And if Amy and Jim come to the meeting tomorrow with miracles, they can always rescind the decision that they made.
Right. Now, it sounds like, I mean, I guess my question is, it sounds like Betts abandoned the job. And that's going to be our position. Now, that's going to require us to go after the bond, although I need to hear from Amy how we have to do that since this is an Okra grant. And depending on how that plays out, we may have to file something in court. And so, if you're wanting to be in a position to know after tonight that regardless of the outcome tomorrow, we're either going forward because you've authorized it already, or we're not going forward because we took care of it tomorrow, then you would need to vote to authorize me to file suit against Betts if that's what we have to do.
I would definitely like to meet with, this is my personal feeling, meet with Triad tomorrow. I mean, I don't want to shoot ourselves in the foot. I mean, saying, we're gonna suspend and then end up, I mean, there's damages in this contract, am I correct? $500 a day, liquidated damages, after January the
15th, that's when they
15th.
started.
So we're well into almost, what?
13,500.
I mean, is that money that we can recoup, or I mean, if we terminate, we're done, correct?
I think we,
Short of the bonding company.
I would want to review exactly how the words are written. That's why I'm not saying that we vote to terminate. We just vote to authorize. I mean, if you're wanting to do this before the next meeting or without having a special meeting, then I'd need to have some authority to file a suit if that became necessary.
what does it take to call a special or emergency meeting?
An emergency meeting, we just have to give the media as much advance notice as we have. So if we decide at 1 o'clock we're going to meet at 2, Robin needs to email the media at 1 o'clock.
What's the requirement or definition of an emergency meeting that is acceptable by the open door law?
It's got to be some sort of a catastrophe or a serious event
That stops government.
that's going to stop governmental business.
But we could, I could get a hold of the paper tonight and tell them that we're gonna meet first thing Friday morning, right?
Yeah, well, and if the council, by the end of tomorrow has an idea what it wants to do, and we just need to go through the formality of a vote, we just need to find a way to get 3 council members here on Friday to cast that vote. And so we could still make the formal decision this week if that's the direction that's going.
Time's very important. I mean, these
Yeah,
guys
because it needs
are
to
dead
be
on.
done.
I mean, if we're up against this deadline at the same time, I don't wanna, jeopardize.
This is what I will suggest at this time. We have our meeting tomorrow, and we demand an answer from Amy as to what Okra and SRF is saying we can or cannot do, because I don't want to jeopardize the grant. And that's why I called January the 4th, and I haven't got that answer. And I want to know what we got to do as far as notifying the bonding company that this is going on, that we may be pursuing their bond. And I want those answers tomorrow, out of tomorrow's meeting. And then following that meeting, I want to set an emergency meeting or else a meeting as soon as 48 hours, whichever we need to do, and advertise it and have the meeting to make a decision to move forward or what our action is going to be. And stick with it and do it. Okay. We're running out of time, and we are not going to, I am not going to sit here myself and let this go to where we're gonna be banging our heads with IDEM and put the town in jeopardy of $25,000 a day fine because of lack of communication, not getting replies back or information that is necessary to make a proper decision from some two professional companies that we are hiring. We've hired them.
Right.
And they're supposed to be doing this work for us.
Should have been
And we're
done.
not getting the answers, and that's part of their position that they're being paid for. I'm pretty frustrated, a month and a half and we can't get this answer. And to me, if I'd had that answer then, I'd already had my decision made and we wouldn't even need this meeting, as far as I'm concerned. But I don't want to jeopardize the grant.
Concern as well.
Well, I had another thought for you guys about this grant. What happens, because we all know what we can finish this for ourselves versus all this other ridiculous stuff. What if we just close the grant now and we're done? And finish it out of pocket? And we could, if we did it ourselves, truly ourselves, we could finish that thing out of pocket for under $10,000 and then sue Bets. If she can't give us a good answer.
Well,
They're not coming back. I mean, this fantasy that they're gonna come here to a meeting.
Well, and my
They're not
concern
coming
is
back.
if they come back, we ain't gonna get any quality service out of them. I mean, they already said there's
They
nothing
want 'em
left
back.
but the doors, and there's 20 things on the list, and they're saying the only thing left is the doors.
Well, the system's not
So
even
that just-
operational.
Well, I know, and they neglected to secure the building, and now the plumbing and everything that they put in there is frozen, busted, and their attorney saying that they are taking no responsibility, it's not their fault. So here we got that argument to deal with, and basically, that is their building until we take ownership of it. And that doesn't happen until everything has been done at the end of this grant, and everything has been signed off on. And we're beyond that point. And for whatever reason, which irritates me, is Amy got a grant extension, but yet she can't ask the questions that I asked her to find out for us. So this grant has been extended beyond, because it's supposed to be closed out in February.
29th.
Yeah,
I think
some-
it's 29th.
It's supposed to be closed out this month yet. The thing's supposed to be completely done, wrapped up and everything.
But if we close it out and sue them, if we close it out, then we're done. I mean, they get their bond back and all that, right? We can't sue them once we close it out, can we? Because then we'll just be
Well-
paying for litigation all out.
Well, I think the grant and then the construction contract are
Two
two
different
different things. And so closing the grant doesn't necessarily, I don't think, close that
Okay.
construction project.
If we go after their bond, what do you consider a reasonable amount of time that it would take to do something?
Couple
like that?
years.
Is that something that can be just go on and on and on?
What would the previous occasion I've had to do this, we file a letter saying this work has not been done, and this is what's going to cost us to complete this work. And then if we wind up having subs, then we'll need additional. If the subs come after us, we'll need additional monies, and you'll be dealing with the bondholder, who's going to then talk to Betts, and depending on what Betts tells them, they may or may not pay us. And at that point, we may wind up having to sue Betts, or Betts may wind up suing us. I mean, that's probably how it's going to play out. And the litigation, I mean, that could be a year or more, depending on how contentious it is and how much they want to fight. Now, maybe they could turn around and it becomes evident very quickly that where the fault lies and the strength of our case, and then we could try to resolve that sooner rather than later. But it's hard to predict at the outset, especially if Betts may have other people looking at him. We may be the tip of the iceberg in terms of what's going to happen.
Well, that was the other thing that I forgot to mention. John and I were out there today. Living Waters is the only Wallace and Tiernan dealer in the state, and probably half of the plants in the state use Wallace and Tiernan products, both water and wastewater. He was rattling off a list of like 5 or 6 different places that Betts is not finished in, and they're having all these horrible problems that we're having.
It really makes you wonder. It really does sound like they're going down in flames. Can they even afford an attorney to drag this out into court?
Well, I've wondered that too. I think I've mentioned I've dealt with their attorney on one other matter. He's based out of Anderson. You know, I'm able to work fine with him. You know, he's a reasonable guy. He's been pretty responsive. I mean, he even responded very quickly when I sent the invitation after we decided to try to meet with him to say, I'm sorry, I'm out of state and I won't be back. You know, but I don't know what their arrangement is with him. I don't know if they gave him an advance, he's working and they're going to pay him, and maybe he'll find out he's not getting paid, or if he's a friend who's doing this on the cheap. It's hard to say. You know, he could even be on some sort of contract where he's trying to recover fees he believes they're owed, and he gets a percentage of what he's recovered. I mean, they don't have to tell us, and I have no idea what that is.
And my concern too with that, Robin, with your question is, and this has happened once before, where a contractor destroyed and actually caused damage to the water system down Arcadia, and we ended up suing them, and they filed bankruptcy. So in the mix of that, there was no money. Then the town ended up putting the whole expense out of pocket because they granted the bankruptcy. He had nothing. So
He didn't have performance bond before they did the work.
not enough. It was small enough, and it wasn't enough to cover the damages that was done, because everything he did had to be demoed and a whole complete system set in there that wasn't the original project. So the project grew because of the damage. So that's a concern of mine too, that, you know, they filed bankruptcy and then there's nothing to, no
Well, should the
reimbursement.
bond still cover it? I mean, the bond is for the full amount of the project.
Yeah, the bond should be good even if they go bankrupt.
Well, I don't understand all this timetable stuff and everything. This is the first time I've been involved in a situation like this, but common sense tells me that, you know, I don't want to lose the possibility. I want to pursue the bond, you know, and have the ability to pursue the bond. And I would prefer that we could force Betts to pay the $500 fine. I mean, when you sit down and stop things, just like John said, this has been you know, we've been on the up and up with these people. We've given them the money, the deposits. We've been more than fair. They just simply didn't do the job. They didn't do it proficiently, and they didn't care and gave no concern as to the town, timetable, or anything. And if there's any cooperation, it's all been on the town cooperating with them rather than them cooperating with us. And I feel violated somewhat in that sense. And I don't think these people really give a hoot what we think. And I think it's a question now where we're going to have to lower the hammer. And, you know, something keeps going through my mind. It makes sense to me, maybe not to you, but sometimes to be a man, you have to take a beating to call yourself a man. And by that, I mean, you know, I'm willing to do whatever we have to do to make things right. And even if, you know, and of course, I guess that's what we got you here for, to tell us what's the right thing to do and how to do it. So, quite frankly, I'm leaning a lot on you. You're the lawyer. You're the education man. And, I mean, you know the law. And I'm willing to, but I just want you to know how I feel. I feel like John does, and I'm sure we probably all do. I think this whole damn thing's been a joke. And,
You know, March 10th is when we signed the contract to release him to work.
It should have been done 3 months later. And then they, quote unquote, walk off the job. Not even November, I think it was before that.
and as far
The
as
job
having them
should have
come
been
back,
done by then anyway.
you know, if they even called and said, you know what, we'll come back and finish the job.
No, we don't.
I'm like, John, I don't think I want them back. You know, if you're in a restaurant and you get a meal and there's a big hair in it, and you take it back,
Or a bug, you
and
don't
then the
want
chef's
it.
gonna say, "I'll get you another bowl." How you know there's not more hairs in that bowl? you know, I mean, I don't want that. It's the same thing, you know. I mean, I don't want them out here.
What I would suggest, is let's have our meeting tomorrow. Let's find out from Amy what the state's got to say and how it impacts us claiming the bond and doing those steps. Have a chance to have those discussions with her and the engineer and get the answers to the questions we need, or at least find out if we're not going to find the answers with the people we've got here. And then we can see if there's a time on Friday when 3 people can get here. We can advertise it in case we need to make a decision and we need 3 people to come together and vote on that decision. And that way we're not making the decision before the meeting in which we get all the information to make the decision.
Can we do it at 5 a.m. on Friday before everybody goes to work?
As long as you don't expect me to be here, that's fine.
We can do it at Lawson's. We can go have coffee.
We ain't gonna get a single answer tomorrow.
No, because we've been asking these questions over and over again, not getting anything.
So this information that we need from Amy, do we need to tell her ahead of time that we're expecting certain questions to be answered in this meeting? So
I
that
think we should ask her right off instead of letting her try to figure something out.
Yeah, she probably should have a heads up.
Yeah, I mean, these are the questions that
But
we
she's
really
thinking
want.
that she's coming to our meeting wanting answers from you all.
That email she sent out, she says she's been waiting to decide whether we are trying to negotiate with vets or terminating them.
Is she the one that can answer the question about how we go after how we go after the grant, or how we go after the bond?
Is it Amy or is it Triad?
Well, she can answer
Some of it.
some of it as the bond relates to the grant and make certain that there's no rules that could disqualify us or anything like that. You know, the engineer should be able to answer what we specifically need, the costs, and those. And then there's a legal process that we have when you file against the bond and you try to make a claim. And so it's just a matter of following those steps.
She should
Oh,
really call Oprah during the meeting.
Okay.
While you guys are here.
Okay.
Yeah.
I was gonna say,
That's
I
good.
didn't know at that time of day whether she's going to be able to get hold of anybody and whether.
At 4, they should be in the
At
office.
least
I don't know.
4:30.
Oh,
She should be able to, if she calls them in the morning, to be able to set that up.
Could we send
Or
her an
have somebody
email?
here.
Could we send her an email early in the morning and let her know what kind of information we must have tomorrow prior to her showing up?
Yeah, I
And tell
mean,
her it's an absolute necessity, we have to know, you know.
she was, and maybe I didn't realize she had sent anyone an email. She was copied on Johnny's last email. And so that may have been what triggered her to finally email everybody else. I didn't see.
she didn't email me.
she hasn't, I copied all the board members
Yeah.
the email that she sent. And it says that she's been in contact with Andy and Robin both over the past few weeks, which I don't know. Andy's told me what conversations had been few and far between that he's talked with her about.
She has never told me she was waiting on a decision from this council.
And
I'm
it's,
telling you right now.
that's what
And she better not sit here and say she did.
And it says, I apologize, I assume you were being kept in a loop. I'm the one who asked her the questions, and she told me she's making the call, and she would call me back the same day. Here it is a month and a half, and I haven't gotten anything back. And she says, until a formal decision is made on whether Betts is terminated or if they are coming back on site, it's hard for me to direct or advise the town. I'm confused on the comment of them being overpaid. Their last pay application was reduced from their original claim. We will talk in more detail at the meeting tomorrow.
No.
That's her email to me.
Now let me tell you about this overpayment. I said something to her because I called her with some specific questions. One was, I cannot believe that there is not a mechanism with the state to protect us to finish this project when it's a mandated project. I don't care if it's an Oprah grant or not. When a contractor walks off the job and refuses to finish. And I told her, Amy, these bids came in, oh, I know, they're really high. And I said, there's not even enough money to finish the project with what we have left. And I said, they've been overpaid. Well, she got kind of wishy-washy about it, and she said, well, that's really water under the bridge because they approved it. And I said, well, they approved it because Triad approved it. You know, and the well is one that Tom admitted to me. The iron filter was supposed to be put in with the well. And they paid all but $1,000, which was the retainage on it. So right there is something that was paid for that wasn't done.
Well, and I have a feeling we're going to wind up at some point with just Triad and Betts pointing fingers at each other. And us trying to figure out who's going.
That's not going to get the job done.
Triad's gotten all their money, right? I mean, at this
No.
point, they don't have very much to lose. I mean,
No, they don't have
But
that.
it ain't even nothing to lose. I mean, you go through this, the list of 21 items are all covered in this document right here. It's out of those specification books that are sitting right up there. Okay? The bottom line is, the contractor did not do what is in the specification book, and they have walked off the job. That's the bottom line.
And they
You know, I mean, we can argue about a pay request that was given to you, it maybe shouldn't have been paid, but the real deal is, Betts breached the contract, Betts is not following the specification book, and they have walked off the job.
And they didn't do the job
And,
right.
and we've got a building that has got to be finished.
And we're past the completion date of the total project.
We're past the deadline.
So.
I just can't believe that one of you can't call Okra or Robin or whoever and talk to them directly that there is not something we can do to finish this ourselves. I mean, there is very little work. The biggest contractor out there is Living Waters. They can do almost everything we need to get this plant operational. You know, the other stuff is small potatoes that can be done by anybody.
and Living Water, so they can complete that for about 10 grand.
No, I'm saying if we weren't paying prevailing wage and if we were allowed to do some of this work ourselves, we could do that. He told us today it's about $2,000 in labor, and I'm guessing it's about $1,000 in parts. He was going to look at it, but that does not include the iron filter. He can put the iron filter in, but we've got to get it. USA Blue Book quote on the filter was $2,800 with some associated piping. So I'm figuring, you know, $3,000, $5,000. It's probably going to cost about $6,000 to get all that, everything that froze fixed, and get it up and running. Plus the chemicals that I'm going to buy, which is another $600. So we're looking at about $6,600 to get that building up and to get that system up and rolling. We already spent $4,000 on the doors, which are supposed to be here this week. I'm calling them tomorrow to find out. So that's the other thing that's out of the equation that everybody keeps forgetting about, even in this deal. $55,000 bid was our low bid to finish this thing. We spent $4,000 on the door, so it's really about 60 grand. And then, on top of all that, we've got 3 change orders that they've never even given us credit back for.
So Aaron, there is nothing in writing that says that from us or
For a
Triad
stop work.
for a stop work order ever to set stop working
No.
anything. So their case is very weak.
Right. Well, I mean, their claim is basically what their attorney told me, and you guys saw the letter.
But here's the problem here.
Yeah.
Okay, here's the problem. I'm telling you right now, I went out there, Murray was right there, I told him they're not putting the doors in. Absolutely, 100%, I did it, it was me. Okay? Over a month and a half leading up to those stupid doors coming, which aren't the right doors, I kept telling them, are the doors coming? What's going on with the doors? We need these doors. I took them to the water plant. I said, with these exact same doors. I told them no. We then had a meeting with the town board, myself and the engineer, and worked the entire thing out, and they walked out. See, they're leaving out this key piece.
Right.
They're saying they got stopped. No, they didn't. We had a meeting, hashed it all out, gave them a bunch of money they didn't even deserve. We agreed to change orders that were a total rip-off. And they walked out that door and never came back. You know, they thought our dumbasses were going to hand them a $60,000 pay request, and we were going to be left with, you know, $5,000 or $6,000, and they were going to be right on down the road. You know,
It's not like we told them not to put the doors in because they were the wrong color.
no,
You know,
the wrong doors.
completely, like doors you could go buy off the shelf somewhere, which is completely wrong.
Yes, they They are.
Yeah.
This is it. That's the whole
That's
thing.
what I can't.
Well, and that's where their big problem is.
Yeah.
Well, here's the two quotes that came in after our last meeting, and we agreed to get a quote on the last remaining work that needs to be finished out there. As Andy said, the lowest bid is $54,545, and the only other bid, we had two bids, two contracts turned in, $121,500.
And we notified about a dozen contractors.
You know,
They got two bids.
so that's where we're at, and we don't even have that amount of money. Last week's meeting we were talking at, we were looking at $25,000 that we have left that was in there in the remaining project. So, you know, we need to make a decision of what we're doing here. And like I said, my recommendation, like I said, is we have this meeting and we have this an emergency meeting or schedule a meeting as soon as possible following, and we decide and do it within the next week. We've made our decision which direction we're going.
Well, let me
I'm
ask
tired
you this.
of all this.
I think everybody's in agreement we're gonna have an emergency meeting. There's no doubt about that. But judging from what Andy is telling me, just to get this straight in my mind, from about $6,500 to $7,500 using Living Waters, we will get this operation, or get this project in operation, which really our main goal right now, due to the time. Now, if we decide to go that route and do that work ourselves, where is that going to put us legally with Betts and all these other people involved?
I don't see it creating a legal problem vis-a-vis Betts or the other ones, because at this point they've walked off the job, they've breached the contract. My only concern would be, what does it do with the grant money? Because I don't know what the grant, how we're allowed to do it.
I'm just telling you, whatever answer you guys get, I'd like one of you to hear those words right out of someone's mouth from the state.
That's what I'm saying. Amy should call Oprah tomorrow.
We need to have
during the
Oprah
meeting.
here tomorrow.
I'll get them then. We could
That
probably
won't happen.
get somebody on the phone.
Yeah, I don't think we'll get a person physically here, but we could probably do a phone call.
So if Oprah says, yeah, you guys can do that without jeopardizing the grant money, then that would give us an option to go ahead and maybe do that if we got approval. To me, that sounds real simple to me, have a guy come out, for $7,500.
See, here's the problem in this.
If we can get away with it.
Here's the problem though. why
Then we
people
can
come in.
take the time to pursue Betts for the money due and the bonds
And
due.
Oprah can see that we are trying to pursue
Here's-
them for.
Here's where we should have, there's one little part that got left out of our grant application. That if it would have been there, this would be a problem. And that says in-kind work. And in-kind work is allowed if it's in your application. And I can't believe in this circumstance with everything going on that Okra won't waive us and allow us to do in-kind work.
I thought that was in the grant application because we did, when this grant started, when we started applying for it, we did in-kind work, and Andy did repairs to some of the structures and the manholes and things like
The lift
that.
station.
And so there was in-kind services done to reduce the price of the project down. And I thought that was being included in the grant application all the way through this, and apparently that part was overlooked and left out. And then we had the previous board that took over during this portion of it being applied for. And, we switched to grant app writers in between there too.
Well, I'd feel much better if we could get a definite answer from Oakland, if it's possible, as to what kind of effect, how that affects the grant by doing this $7,500 project with Waters or
Well, it's
whatever.
more than that. I mean,
I'm assuming that's $7,500. And if they do, if they say, no, you can get away with that, no problem. My perspective is, go ahead and do that and get the project in working order, in use. Then we would have the time to pursue these other people. But I don't want to get in a situation where we if, ands, maybes, and we got to be sure what our options are, and there's important answers we got to get from important people that simply aren't here yet.
I'm tired of the runaround.
Yeah, I'm tired of the rhetoric too. I'm tired of the runaround. Well, this and that and this and that. We need some answers.
I think what you're saying is doable, Toby, that we can do this stuff to get the plant up and operational and just pull that part out of the grant or the project as we complete, just like the doors, you know, and then go after the, you know, like I said, we're gonna end up having to go after beds if, I don't think there's gonna be any solution to this in the next day or so. I mean, we've had our meetings. The big issue was the doors. We resolved that, we thought, and here we are 2 months later, and still, we're in a worse mess than we were
Well,
then.
the thing is, you think about
So,
after listening to Larry today, how many people are having these same meetings around the state, lining up, getting ready to go after them too?
Well, and I just don't feel comfortable having them back in here when their whole issue is it just needs the doors put on the building, and we got a list of 20 things that the inspector has went out and made the list of. This is the inspector's list from
What they
the
did
engineering
do,
firm.
they
So,
didn't
you
do
know,
it right, so.
you know, what kind of quality work, if they were to say, we're gonna come back and finish your job, what kind of quality work are they gonna give us? So,
Well, I would like everybody to think about that tomorrow we have this meeting and Oprah's there, and we do get a definite answer from them. And in this particular thing that Andy brought up in particular, if they said, yeah, you guys can do that with having no effect on the grant, then that would be something I would want to pursue for that little amount of money in order to get the project up and running. And that's all, you know, assuming we can do that without being
And
penalized.
part of this money that's left coming to this job.
So what I'm saying is, I want to get the job
We need to get it
completed,
done.
then worry about the money if possible. If we got the money to get it done, you know, sometimes you have to fight a battle. You got to win a battle before you win a war. And I think the battle here is get that project up and running. That's the main goal.
Send them the bill.
And yeah, that's what I'm talking about. I mean,
Part of the money coming though too is loan money. So, I mean, you could talk to Steve Brock about that too. It's not all grant money that's paying for this thing. Part of it is our loan.
and I'll tell you something else. I'm a little upset with Triad. When Tom was here, there was issues that came up a long time ago that Tom said he would take care of it. And in my opinion, it didn't get rectified. It didn't get taken care of. And I kind of feel like they kind of, you know, swept stuff under the rug as well by just simply turning their eyes. And that's my personal opinion. And I don't know how much they are willing to go to bat for us in this situation now, even now. I just kind of feel like we're the lone wolves here and everything's going to fall down on our shoulders.
And it's been put off and put off and put off. I'm tired of talking about it.
I don't
It
trust
should have
Bess
been
at
done in
all,
July.
and I don't
The
quite
latest.
fully trust Triad, to be quite honest with you. And I don't care how much work we've done with them in the past.
So what time would work for the special meeting on Friday?
I'm available anytime on Friday.
So am I.
Me too.
Whatever's best.
Sounds like you got your three, so I don't necessarily have to be here.
Right, we just need a
Can be,
quorum.
but I've got a full morning, but if it's convenient to meet in the morning, you guys go ahead. Don't work it around that.
What time do you have to go into Arcadia, Mr. Pfeiffer, whenever you feel like it?
I've got vacation time coming, so I can spend some more of my vacation time to get this resolved.
And it's possible I could be here too, so you just come up with a time, you know.
I personally, with Fred being the president of the board, I'd really like him to be present
I would
during
too.
this meeting, because I think it's gonna be a very important decision that
I
we
do too.
all of us can be there. I'd like for all of us to
Is,
be present.
10 a.m. too early?
Nope.
Next Friday?
Friday at 10, that good?
And I could, you know, later in the evening or whatever works like, I'm whenever.
Function that morning, but it's over by 9, so.